hello. Welcome to another episode of Man with a Mentor. I am the man, your host, Matthew Barnard, and you may be wondering what a show called Man with a Mentor may be about. And basically, it's about talking to people who have a passion for what they want to do in their career and their lives, and they just go for it until they get where they want to be. And one of the people that I have today on the show, his name is Joe Chacon, and there he is. And I'm going to introduce you now, Joe.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
Thanks, Joe. Joe Chacon is an actor, writer, producer, and editor who has created over 9 films and with multiple projects in development through his production company, Wolfpack Pictures, which can be found on YouTube at youtube.com/at wolfpackpictures2380. How's that? I see
Yeah,
the logo behind you. So, yeah, there we go.
there it is.
Yeah. Now, most people I interview on Man with a Mentor, I have never met before. So, this is different because you're like a friend who was in my web series called Spin the Bottle when I was in Los
Yeah.
Angeles like 11 or 12 years ago. And if you want to watch that web series, it's called Spin the Bottle, and it's at youtube.com/spinthebottletv. When you came in to like audition for something, I was like, oh my God, this guy is like this wide. He has massive shoulders. So, I feel like I've lost some weight. I've been working out. So I feel like we should compare, right?
There we go. I
Yeah.
see progress there.
What do you think?
Yeah, look
Yeah.
at the cut. Look at that cut.
I don't think I am remotely the same.
With consistency, you will achieve it.
Right. I feel good with my rather lackadaisical approach to eating and working out. I feel like this is the best Matt's probably ever going to be. So I can be proud of that. But let's go back, Joe, because, you were in my web series, but I didn't get a chance to have long chats with you or really know that much about you. So let's go back to the early days and when that first bite of what you wanted to do for your future, like when did that happen? Where were you and what were the circumstances?
I would say I caught the bug probably around the time of graduating from high school. I graduated a few years early because I excelled in my academics because I was set to go into the Air Force
All right.
to try to be a fighter pilot. Um, but that took a detour after being invited on set from a friend of mine who was a childhood actor, and he was working on this major motion picture at the time. And it was the first time I ever been on a working set on location, and just seeing the amount of people that it takes to make a full-length feature film. So um, I could say that that's when I was bitten by the acting bug. Fast forward a couple of years, I dropped out of college and out of the Air Force program to become an actor, and that caused a huge rift with my parents.
Right.
Eventually resulted in me having to leave the household at 18, 19 years old.
Mm.
And in order for me to survive, because at that age, there's not very many well-paying jobs that you can have that are going to provide for yourself. I was couch surfing for a little bit with my sister and her friends until we got our own place, but I fell into the industry of male exotic dancing for a while to
All
support
right.
myself.
Yeah, I was going to ask about this because, um, it seems like if you say you're a stripper, like it can mean multiple, like different things, right?
Or I'm a dancer.
Right, or a dancer, or
Yeah, that's
whichever.
a very vague label for the whole spectrum of the whole dancing world.
Right, yeah, yeah. But there's, you almost feel like there's a respect for the guys that are in like Chippendales or Thunder Down Under. Like it's a show, you know.
Yeah, it's a
Uh,
full on stage production, so it's more than just ripping off your clothes and being fondled by women on stage. There's a whole discipline and art form that goes into it.
right. So like what? How would you describe your participation in that realm?
Well, I was always kind of naturally gifted with rhythm. I was a break dancer when I was a lot younger, so I helped out with a lot of the choreography and with some of the other dancers' stage acts. So it was more it was more I was more involved than just being on stage for my own act. So it was a whole participation of helping out the whole company that I was working for.
All right. Well, let's go back a little bit. Like when you were, 18, 20, 22. Like were you thinking, do I need to go to film school? Do I need to go to NYU drama program or how did you think about, I mean, if you were struggling even to make ends meet in a sense, did you think about like I'm saving up my money to learn this craft or did you or because there's a load of people that they get their way in the industry and they start working and they just pick it up as they go along and then there's the
Yeah,
other people that want to learn it all first and then develop themselves from there. So how did it work?
being that young, there is a trait of or a hint of arrogance that you have what they call the it factor to be successful in this industry. And as years went on, I wasn't booking anything, so it was kind of a humbleizing experience to where I felt that maybe I was wrong or incorrect. So I did take acting classes for a period of time to learn a method. So all the money that I was making from dancing, I was investing into acting classes, but not necessarily film school, because I've always heard that film schools were a big ripoff.
Mm,
And I did feel in a way that acting classes were a money pit because they're so expensive.
right.
You're paying about $400 to $500 a month, and um, I started having like this point of view about acting classes that the teachers are actors who've never made it themselves, so they started teaching. Um, but I took enough classes to create a method for myself, what works for myself, and I've been doing this for over 22 years now. So there's a way how you kind of blend your own method in with the teachings that you've gone through school to kind of help create your own process.
Right. There doesn't seem to be a right way or a model of the right things to do to be in the business of show. So this is why I'm always amazed at people who, start young and don't get completely off course and
Yeah.
get distracted by life things and just keep like going after it. So that's why I want to give some kudos to you. I mean, were there ever times when you just wanted to chuck the whole thing and just say, "Get me a job at, you know, DeWitt,
Yeah.
do taxes or something"?
There's plenty of times where I feel like I just want to throw in the towel because I'm frustrated. It's not an industry to get into, and you need to have the mental fortitude to persevere through this. It's not for everyone. I've seen so many people that come and go. They give it about a 5 year timeline to try to make something happen. And if this is your dream, there should not be a timeline. This is something that you stick throughout life and you evolve in it and you don't throw in the towel.
I wanted to ask you about technology because, I know people who have bought the latest equipment and then 3 to 5 years later, and there's like the newest stuff rolls out. So, how do you keep up with that? how do you pick and choose what you're going to invest your money in, or do you rent
Um,
things, or just and find people that know all the technical stuff, or are you pretty confident with the technical stuff and you're just continuing
the,
to learn every day?
I'm pretty savvy myself. I'm the type that wants to learn how to do something myself. Um, the audience doesn't care about what latest camera you have. What they care about is storytelling and the journey you're going to put them on. I've seen films that are shot on iPhones compared to the $40,000 red camera, and here we have a film that was shot entirely on an iPhone that's an Oscar contender. So splurging on tens and thousands of dollars worth of equipment isn't going to make you a great filmmaker. It's the
True.
storytelling and it's in the writing.
Right.
Um, like with myself, when I started Wolfpack Pictures, I wanted to own all my own equipment to avoid the costly expenditure of constantly having to rent out equipment every time I shoot something. Yeah,
Don't you
it's
think?
all in the writing and storytelling. That's the only thing that's going to captivate the audience. It's not the latest gizmo or gadgets.
All right. I was going to ask you about Latinos in storytelling, and do you feel like um, the equality and the diversity in front of the camera and behind the camera and the decision making crew of people out there in studio land, do you feel like it's becoming more diverse, or do you feel like you're still in the struggle to be seen and
It's
heard?
it's still in the struggle. It's improving slightly, but there's a whole renaissance happening right now with Latino filmmakers and people in position of power to make decisions. It needs to happen sooner and faster to
Right.
where we are in control of our own writing and decision making of how we are represented, because right now we're grossly underrepresented in film and TV, and usually it's a negative stereotype
Right.
where it focuses more on criminals or people who are still immigrants. Mind you, I'm third generation Latino,
Okay.
so like my experience is not represented on what's on TV, because like people who are my generation are now professionals. They're professors, they're lawyers, they're doctors. Like our people, the Latino culture, they're the primary suspects of being crabs in a bucket.
Mm.
Um, there's a lot of times where Latinos want to succeed, but family holds them down, and it causes a lot of family rift
Right. I wanted
because
to
it's
ask about that because when I was watching different projects of yours, I saw a lot of last name Chacones
yeah.
on there. And so I was going to ask, like, who in your family supports you? And if there anyone that isn't, like, how do you are you trying to convince them? Do you just say, this is what I'm going to do, and you just blindly go forward? Or do you sometimes think a lack of support, like, hasn't enabled you to reach as far as you want to go? Or just like how your feelings on those family dynamics go?
So whenever you watch my productions, it's primarily my brother, my sister-in-law, my niece and nephew, and my sister occasionally, but they're my main support system because they believe in my abilities to make this a success, or else they wouldn't devote their time and energy to helping out. There are and still is resistance from my father, who has never agreed to this, sort of career endeavor that I took on, because he wanted me to continue the path to go into the Air Force.
All right.
Um, but still to this day, 22 years later, there still is no support. Um, but I don't use that as a crutch, or I should say more of a handicap to deter me from continuing, because I'm not seeking approval from anyone other than myself.
Mm.
I don't need validation from anyone other than myself. So I don't go into projects blindly. I go in with a plan. Since I write
Right.
all my own films, I produce all my own films. I don't have other people's money telling me what to do with my films.
Right.
So I go in with strategy and I go in with a plan, and it's been successful. I've been able to create 12 short films, 2 TV proof of concepts for television shows.
Oh, should we talk about Contracted and Cholo Noir? And I'll tell you
Yeah.
something about Cholo Noir, which I have watched a few of. My idea of like noir is like dark, brooding characters, like finding themselves in situations where there's probably not going to be a good end for anyone involved, and maybe there'll be a slightly goofy side character that has some humor, but yours is funny. So, like, where did that idea come from? Because you've kind of mixed the name of a genre with other elements and created it kind of is a whole new thing,
Yeah.
right?
I think my outside influence, well, for the whole, I'm a big fan of noir style films. I'm a huge fan of Robert Rodriguez, and
Oh yeah.
he did Sin City, and that's shot in a noir, aesthetic. And it was just this off the wall type of concept I came out with because I saw that a lot of cholo videos on like Instagram or YouTube are trending and going viral, and these were just just skits shot on a cell phone. So I had this wild idea to make something or try to make something go viral that is the subtext of being like a homeboy or in that setting of being a cholo. But then I thought, like, how about if I bring this concept of it being noir? Because I always like to have these challenges whenever I produce something. So I came up with that, but I never intended it to go where it's gone now. I thought maybe I'll do one or two, small little videos, but now I'm 10 episodes in.
Mm,
It's almost a full season. But mind you, these are short videos. They're like 4 to 8 minutes long. Cholo Noir is very interesting because it checks so many boxes. For one, it's a dramedy, and I think that the comedy in it just comes because that's just my personality.
right.
Um, but Latinos all also like to be scared. They like to be what should I say? They're the biggest box office ticket sales of horror film.
All right.
And I think that comes from us as children because we're constantly always being scared by our parents, by certain entities, whether it's El Cucuy or La Llorona. So Cholo Noir has that element in it too, which will draw the crowd to keep them watching the episodes.
If someone came to you new and fresh and spry, and full of ideas, and they wanted advice on developing a career in entertainment, what would be key things that you would say to do and then to not do?
Oh man, that's a very heavy question. I would tell them to be prepared to be in it for the long haul. There's
Right.
no such thing as an overnight success. Do the work. There's no shortcuts.
Mm,
And don't listen to the naysayers, even if it's people in your own family who you're the closest to. Listen to your heart and pound the pavement. It's called show business for a reason. It's not called show talent. As you know,
right.
there's a lot of successful actors out there that really don't have a lot of talent. They just have the right connections.
Right.
And
So,
that's primarily what this business is the people that you know. It's a lot of nepotism. Um, which I think is partially what's it's taken me this long to get where I'm at because I went into this business not knowing a single person. Be kind to everyone, be respectful, and just try not to be a toxic person in this industry. or have a big ego, because that's a huge turnoff to a lot of producers and casting directors. Is starting out, you have this big ego, so there should not be any egos on set.
Let's talk about future things. Like, tell me things that you've got, 2 series things
Yeah.
going on.
So I had 2 series in development. I'm affiliated with an organization called Chicano Hollywood. It's a streaming platform that showcases Latino or Chicano film projects or TV projects. And I've been part of them since the inception of the platform. And I created 2 different TV pilots, and we shot proof of concepts, which are on the streaming app. One is called El Lobo, which is basically like a Latino version of the Punisher.
Oh, right.
The main character is sort of an anti-hero, and it deals in the world of being a hitman working for syndicates. The second TV series that we have in development is called Salido, which in Spanish means 2 things. Salid means to exit or to get out. Salido, which is another street slang of that word, means a horny male.
Ah,
And that's based off my experience as being a male stripper. I'm
all
sorry,
right.
exotic dancer. It deals with that and the turmoil and conflicts that it creates with a Latino family that's religious. Because Latinos like to hold on to their Catholicism, and
Let's go back to the talking about stripping. So, was there a problem with, like, if your family had problems with you trying to be a filmmaker, how did they feel about you being
oh,
a
I
stripper?
didn't I didn't
Or was that cool?
no, no. Me and my father didn't talk for almost 5 years when he found out that I was dancing. Because my dad is what they call a machista, which means like someone who's macho.
All right.
But he's also an ex cholo, so he has this machismo to him. But it was a big clash between us, and yeah, we didn't talk for about 5, maybe 6 years.
Mm.
Yeah, and I danced for 13 years, from the age of 19 to about 33.
Well, I am excited about all these projects, Joe. And do you want to do a plug for yourself where people can easily most find you out there?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at actor_Joe Chacon. You can subscribe to the Cholo Noir web series on YouTube. Just key search Cholo Noir. It's the first thing that comes up. And also, I believe you gave out the URL for Wolfpack Pictures, so I have all of my projects on there. I have about like 10 short films on there, I believe.
All right.
And
Right.
there's different Wolfpack Pictures that are operating, but they're not properly operating under an LLC like me. So when
Oh,
you're key searching for Wolfpack Pictures, you want to look for this logo right here. That's how you know it's the right one.
oh, right. Look for that, people out there. All right, Joe, thank you so much for being on the show. And if you enjoyed this episode of Man with a Mentor, please tell your friends, like, subscribe, and post about it. And I want to thank my guest again, Joe Chacon, actor, director, writer, filmmaker, producer. Anything else?
Editor.
Editor, that's right. You're doing it all.
Doing it
Yeah,
all. Wear many
you are the
hats.
one man like stop of everything, and your stuff always looks so good. So I think you're doing
Thank you.
something right.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks for having me. I really, really had fun on your podcast.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. Thank you.
All right, bye.